cat in the wall, eh? Okay, now you're talking my language.
Do you ever drunk Baileys from a shoe?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mother, for replacing the baby aspirin with LSD.
All right, welcome in to a week where Ohio State's the game of the week. So we love talking about gambling when Ohio State's the game of the week here at the View from C-Deck. And we have the Haas here tonight. A rare appearance from the man. He's awake past 9 o'clock on a weeknight. What the heck? But we're ready to get going. Make it quick so this boy can get to bed and try to keep this podcast under half an hour. But Ohio State laying 4.5. It keeps oscillating between 4.5 and 4. Over/under has dropped from when we recorded our first podcast of the week, previewing the game, from 48.5 down to 45.5 already. But I'm giving us 48.5 if you want to join in with the Dire Wolf and myself on our under thoughts. So if you want to see one of my thoughts, go watch our other podcast. I got the Ohio State, though, not covering for once. Penn State, I'll take the 4.5, and I think they went outright. Barely in a very close game, but a very, very low scoring game. Both defenses are good. Both offenses are just okay, I think, like in against a good defense. So a big under, though, on the 48.5. It's under 45.5. I'd still take the under right now because I think it's somewhere in the low 20s to teens. But Haas, what do you think? We haven't heard your thoughts yet about this game, and it's obviously the biggest game of the season so far for Ohio State.
Well, anybody that's been watching the channel knows that I've had Penn State in my Final Four, and I had them to win the Big Ten championship before the start of the year. However,
Quit copying me.
However, I went into this year thinking that our defense was going to still be bad. Not knowing many improvements, having a lot of uncertainties on the offensive side of the ball. I've seen enough on our defense to now believe that we are going to win on Saturday. Now, my hot take and why I think, it probably won't happen. I could see it being low scoring like you guys think, but I think it's going to be a shootout. And I think the over hits, and I think we cover. But I'm not going to take that as one of my picks. I'm staying away because this game has a lot of emotions. But I think like a score of 37-32, I wouldn't be surprised by, and I think we win. I just think that when you're coming into a game like this, both teams know that they don't have a good shot at beating Michigan as it stands right now. I think Michigan is a little bit better than both teams, and so their shot of winning one of those two games is to beat Ohio State or Penn State. And I think we got to go all out on our offense just to try to beat them and just don't hold anything back. And there's no letting loose, let the reins go. So that's why I think it could be a shootout. There's just talent everywhere on both sides of the ball that it shouldn't be hard for them to score. And both defenses, we'll see how they hold up. But I think it's gonna be a shootout. I think it's gonna be a fun game for once.
I think it'd be a fun game, but still not a shootout. Because I've seen us play a couple of decent offenses at least and still hold them below 17 or lower. Nobody's broke 17 against us. And obviously, Penn State's number one defense in the country right now, but they have played absolute dog poop.
I don't think we've played a good offense. I've seen what Maryland has done. They laid an egg last week, and Notre Dame's offense has looked anemic. For most of the season since we played them. I don't think we've played a good offense compared to like Penn State or Michigan or what we could see in the playoff. I mean, that's credit to the Big Ten stinking in terms of offense. I mean, it's not our fault. But I don't think we've played a good offense like Washington and Oregon. Like I think Penn State and Michigan are going to be the two best offenses we face unless if we make the playoff. But yeah, I think I'm all in on us winning this game.
Yeah. So yeah, Direwolf and I. You don't have it as your pick though, even though you're all in on us. I don't get it. But. We do. Direwolf and I both had the under as one of our picks for the week. Another game that you and I both picked, Missouri. Who we got? Who's Missouri? Missouri hosting South Carolina, 3:30. We both took Missouri -7. South Carolina's pass defense, trash. Missouri's pass offense, led by Luther Burden III, not trash, pretty good. It's at Missouri where they've had a lot of close games actually this year, so the 7's a little bit scary. But South Carolina's offense has not, they're good, and I wanted to take the over at first, but it's only 60, and both have very good passing offenses and not so great passing defenses. But South Carolina's offense hasn't traveled at all. They have not been able to score on the road for whatever reason, so that scared me off. That's also why I took Missouri -7.
Yeah, I just like the offense here. I don't like Spencer Rattler's it's not turning out for him as what people thought it would. So I think Missouri's got a lot of good momentum here, and they could, contend here, for the rest of the season if they just kind of keep getting better every. And 7 points, I don't think that's out of the possibility. I could see them beating them by 12 or 13.
I did skip a couple of noon games here. So other big noon game though, Oklahoma hosting UCF. Both of us picked this game as well, but I went with the over, and that was a tough one for me. It was as high, 66, and both teams are coming off a bye, so there could be some rust. But both teams are really high-powered offenses. UCF is a really bad defense, so Oklahoma scoring like in the 40s is almost a lock, I feel like, with their high pace. They both play high paces, though. They both are top 5 in yards in the country. So, but UCF's quarterback's hurt. They didn't score very much against Kansas, so I could see that's why the over-under isn't even like it should feel like it should be in the 70s with how high power these offenses are at full strength, but they're not. But I still went with Oklahoma. I think they're going to score a lot against UCF's atrocious defense, and I think UCF will score enough to get us over the over.
Yeah, I'm taking the 19 point, or laying the 19, whatever that is.
Yeah, 19.
19 points doesn't seem like a lot to me with Oklahoma's high-powered offense and UCF's porous defense. So those 19 points, yes, I'll do that as one of my bets.
I believe they are 6-0 against the spread too this year. So the bookies it seems like a low spread, and the bookies have been off about them. But the rust factor, even though both teams could have it, kind of scares me a little bit. Plus, coming off the big game against Texas, having 2 weeks to hear how great you are. A direwolf delight here, though. Of course, he had to pick one dog shit Big Ten game. I believe. Wait, was this you or him? The Rutgers game.
It was him. The Rutgers.
Yeah. Rutgers -5 against Indiana. He makes us talk about these dog shit games when he's not on, even. But
that was me last year with Vanderbilt. You're welcome.
Thank God. Now Missouri's your team. You always have to find an SEC East team, don't you? He's got Rutgers -5 against Indiana. Rutgers should blow their doors off. Indiana's the worst team in the division, probably. Them or Michigan State. But Rutgers struggled at home with Michigan State last week. Needed a hell of a comeback just to win by 3 at the very end. So I don't know about the 5. I mean, Indiana's been getting their doors blown off left and right, though, lately by just everybody. And but 5 seems like a lot for Rutgers, so I'll take Indiana plus the 5, but I think Rutgers still wins.
Give me Shiano in the defense. The 5 points is right. Rutgers probably win by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, either way, PU, stay away from that game with your eyeballs. Moving on here to another 3:30 game. The 3:30 slate's really nice, actually.
Yeah.
We'll start with Bama, though. Hosting Tennessee in a rematch from last year where they finally got upset by Tennessee for the first time in forever. Maybe the first time since Saban's been there. And right now, the line's down to 9. It was 9.5 when we picked it. But I'll give us the 9. And I'll give you the 9.5, and I'll take the 9. So we both win. You took Tennessee plus 9.5. I took Bama -9. The revenge factor for me is big. And Joe Milton on the road, he's only played once, and it was awful in the swamp against Florida, and Tennessee's lost this year. So I'm thinking that Bama's defense, they're good against the run. That's what Tennessee mainly is. Their bread and butter now is just high volume running, that super high pace to try and wear teams down. I don't think they'll be able to do that against Bama. But Tennessee's defense is pretty good. They're very similar to A&M. Like, they're built around their D-line. And obviously A&M gave Alabama all they could handle, but that was at A&M, so that's why I'm thinking Bama handles it by 10, like 27-17 or something like that. Over under 48.5. I almost went under on that too, but that's one that feels like it could bite you easily.
This is the Notre Dame effect for me kicking in here with Alabama. I mean, they went South Florida, they won by 14. They were home to Ole Miss, they won by 14. At Mississippi State, they blew their doors off, but then they were at A&M, close game there. Home to Arkansas, close game there. I mean, these are all tougher teams that they are barely beating. Now they're home to Tennessee. Next week, they're home to LSU, or they have a bye, then home to LSU. Yeah. Then at Kentucky, and then Auburn. Like, there's a lot of close games here. They're going to lose one of them, I think. I mean, they're not fully cut up, like, way better than these teams. So I'm thinking Tennessee 9.5. I think Tennessee covers. I don't know if they win outright. But I expect a good game because of Tennessee's defense and both teams being able to run the ball. And if it's a close game and both teams are just gritting it out, it could come down to whoever has the ball last. So I'm thinking Tennessee covers pretty well here.
You're right that they're going to lose one, but it'll be LSU.
No, I think they will lose that game too, but I think this game's closer than 9.5 points.
Yeah, 9.5 is pretty big, but like I said, Joe Milton on the road scares the crap out of me. Another 3:30 game. Oregon coming off the devastating loss, 20-point favorites against a Washington State team that got their freaking doors blown off by Arizona last week. And you and Direwolf both picked this game. Direwolf Delight and Haas Handy. Yay, buddy. I'll let you go first, though, talking about this one. What do you got for the Cougs traveling to Autzen?
I will take those 20 points. Both teams coming off devastating losses of sorts. Oregon has a little bit more hopes going off of their loss. But 20 points is a lot. Washington State's offense, at least up until last week, looked pretty good to be able to stay in games. And that's a lot. You know, that can be tiring and exhausting mentally for a team to come off a game like Oregon. So I think Oregon wins, but 20 point, you know, it could come down to like these games do. Oregon can be up by 4 or 5 scores, and then Washington State just air raids in the fourth quarter and makes it closer than what it actually was in the end.
Yeah. Direwolf decided to delay the 20. Man, this game, I could see a lot of things happening because the psychology of both teams has got to be all over the place right now.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, Washington State's got to be like, what the hell just happened to us last week? 44. They were up 6-0 in that game and then gave up 44 consecutive points after they scored on their first drive. And Oregon obviously probably feels they should have won. I mean, I know they feel they should have won last week in Washington. I still think I still think they're the best team in the country, though. But you know, it could easily be a hangover game for them, or maybe they're annoyed with their coach. But I think they'll be ultra aggressive. I'll take Oregon laying the 20, but I don't feel good about that at all. It's not one of my picks. Yeah. Moving on to later games in the day, getting into the night slate, and we have who do we have next? Oh, Auburn and Ole Miss. A game that probably wasn't on many people's radars, but Auburn only 6.5-point dogs. It is at home, but they've struggled after their close game against Georgia when they should have won at home. But 6.5 only getting. Direwolf picked this game as with taking Auburn plus 6.5, which he was successful against when he picked them against Georgia earlier this year. And I kind of like that pick because Ole Miss traveling on the road against a team that's very physical up front hasn't usually worked out too well for them. And historically, it's like Lane just doesn't. These are the type of games that he either ekes out or doesn't win at all. So I'm with Casey. I'll take Auburn.
Yeah, I like Auburn too. It's a tough environment, nighttime, different time of day, probably different outcome. But I think Auburn might get a win here. You know, 6.5 too is a lot. I don't know how this game. Both these teams, Ole Miss is like this every year. They're always in the middle of the pack and they make some surprising moves. But yeah, Auburn at home. I think they cover.
Running game is real nice for them.
No, they saw in that Georgia game. They ran like 2 or 3 quarterbacks and they just run the ball over the place. And their defense is at least good enough to hold teams to be able to be in the game at the end.
Right, as long as you can't stop their run. Keeping an eye on the enemy. None of us picked this game, but we got to do it. What usually used to be a big game, Michigan and Michigan State. Not this year because the Sparty is absolute doo-doo. They can thank Mel Tucker for that in many different ways. And it's a 24.5-point spread, though, which actually seems a little low to me. But the odds makers generally have just been off on Michigan. Michigan's been blowing their spreads out of the water the last 3 weeks. I don't see why that stops this week or why I would bet against it stopping. So I'll take Michigan to cover that pretty easily.
At Michigan State night game?
Correct.
Man, I think Michigan covers, but I stayed away from it too. I've been usually taking them or Georgia both weeks. So I think they're two of the best teams, and these lines don't seem big enough. But this one, I mean, rivalry game. I'm always suspect of those, and this is one. And we've seen them beat them when they shouldn't, just as both teams do. Yeah, I don't know what to feel about this.
Yeah, Michigan State played better last week, and they had their hearts ripped out too, though. So I feel like that may have been them shooting their wad a little bit against Rutgers of all teams. That's not good if you're trying to shoot your wad against Rutgers. Big ranked night game. Florida State, who's starting to look more and more like a playoff team the last couple weeks after some struggles there against BC and Clemson, hosting Duke, who's down their starting quarterback most likely in Leonard, but looked good last week against NC State regardless. Offensively, they were didn't seem like there was much of a drop off, and their defense is still nice. Right now, the line moves since you picked it. It's at 14.5 now, which means it's moving in your direction, at least people's thought wise. But I like the hook now with that 14.5. I'm not super confident in Duke, but I've been off the Florida State bandwagon for a little while. Where I think last week was more of an anomaly than anything, and I still think they win. But the extra half gives me that. I'll say they win like 34-20, but gives me that half point. I'll take the Duke to cover with that. But I'll let you have your 13.5 that you picked.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't really think I don't think I'm really worried about it, because even if Riley Leonard was healthy, they're calling him. I just like making fun of him. They're calling him like a Daniel Jones because they both went to the same school and they're both kind of athletic and make plays that they shouldn't.
Is that nice?
But that's not a good comp for me.
Yeah,
I don't like
nice.
Daniel Jones. I think that's one of the worst contracts in the NFL this year that was given out. So I'm taking Florida State's high-powered offense, and I don't think a Daniel Jones quarterback can keep up with what they're putting down in Florida State. And at Florida State, no, I think they win by 4 touchdowns, honestly. That
very well could happen. I mean, I don't feel great about that pick. Like I said, there's a lot of games I just don't have a good feel for this week. This one, I almost want to put this game over now. Last one, we're going to talk about USC and Utah, and SC obviously reeling.
Yeah.
But so they get destroyed last week against Notre Dame at Notre Dame. Last year, Utah beat them in a close game in Utah and then wrecked them in the Pac-12 championship game. Utah plays the physical defense that seems to be giving Lincoln Riley troubles there.
Yep.
But USC is still a 7-point favorite at home. Utah has not traveled particularly well this year, especially offensively, because, in general, their offensive struggle without Cam Rising. I think I like the Trojans minus 7. The over-under, though, it's down to 53 now. And I was kind of thinking that, too. Casey picked the over in this game of 54. It's one of those, though. It surprised me that he, of all people, picked this. Because that seems like a scary line. That seems like they're wanting you to take the over. So I'm going with the under, and the betting line's already moving that way. I'll go under the 54 as my pick for that one, but it's not one of my picks for the week. And I think USC wins it by, I'd say they cover the 7.
I've been on USC's bandwagon for a while.
You have.
But I don't know. This is one of those things that, it's not really home field advantage when they're undefeated is one thing in the Coliseum. But after a big blowout loss like that, is that stadium going to be packed? Utah has their number as of late, that defense. I can see this being – I'm taking the under, and I think Utah wins. I think that defense just travels well. I think that they maybe figured something out last week. I think they changed their quarterbacks, and they're getting ready to make a push when Cam Rising comes back here maybe in a couple weeks to a month. I like them. I think they make a push here.
Yeah, it wouldn't stun me at all, but I feel like this is a huge litmus test for Lincoln Riley.
Yes.
Is his team going to lay down after taking that beating last week? That hasn't happened before with him, really. So I don't think it'll happen again, but man, this could spiral out of control for USC real quick because they still got Oregon and Washington left. Yeah.
Utah's defense, they are recruiting pretty well for the defensive side of the ball, and I just think they give them fits up front.
Yeah, they have. Anybody that plays physical has been giving USC all kinds of problems. So with that, though, done for the week. The only game that really matters is Ohio State, Penn State to us. Go Bucks. But as I always do at the end of these podcasts, we talk about our top 4 teams that we have for the playoff. I'll let you start since you have been on a couple weeks. I don't even remember who you had the last time you've been on, to be honest. But
the last time I was on, it was Texas, USC, Georgia, and Penn State.
Yeah,
and
I think only one of those maybe has changed. Yeah.
Yeah. After this podcast, I'm going Georgia. I think that they're the best team in the country. I know Brock Bowers is out, but their schedule is a piece of cake. They can really heal up until then. I'm gonna roll us. I think we win this week, and I think it just galvanizes us and just gets us ready to plow through Michigan. I'm getting hopeful. I'm getting my hopes up. If I get crushed on Saturday, I get crushed. But right now, I'm living it. I think
Casey might show up at your door and start making out with you soon. But go ahead.
No, I've got an alert whenever he comes within 10 miles of me. Georgia, Florida State, and Oklahoma. I think the Pac. I was on the Pac-12 bandwagon, but after watching that Washington-Oregon game, they have to beat each other up. And that is too brutal. Even Oregon State, and you see it these teams are gonna. They could be surprised any week. It's gonna like Notre Dame. It catches up with you.
It does, and Oregon's got a brutal stretch to end the year that they
Yes.
run off 4 plus the Pac-12 championship. It'd be impressive.
And none of them have a great non-conference win. I mean, Utah beat Florida, Oregon, Texas Tech, Washington, Michigan State, or no, as Washington State beat Michigan State.
No,
I don't know who Washington played.
Washington beat Michigan State. Washington State beat Wisconsin.
Okay. No, I think they beat each other up.
Yeah, the problem for I want to put Oregon in still. So my 4 before last week, I 2 weeks ago I qualified the winner of the Washington Oregon game. Then I went ahead and said Oregon last week. I do think Oregon's the better team, but man, that is a rough 5-game schedule they got to end the season.
I will say this: if USC wins this weekend, depending on how they look, I wouldn't be surprised. I know. I'm just saying. I kind of wanted to. I don't know. Caleb Williams is a nice quarterback to watch. They're really fun to watch. So that's part of it. I like just watching fun teams. If they run the table, man, that would just be a really good story for them to run the table. So if they win this weekend, I might have to put them back in my 4.
Rooting for a dickhead like Lincoln Riley is never fun, or a fun story.
New blood in the playoffs.
Actually, I don't think they've been fun to watch this year. I thought they were more fun last year. This year,
no, they were.
It's like too much playground ball from Caleb.
I want new blood in the playoff. I wouldn't be. I don't want Penn State in it, but at the same time, okay, they're new.
New blood like USC. They're such bottom feeders, scraping themselves up from the bottom.
But they're joining the Big Ten. We need to boost our numbers. We have half of the conference is irrelevant. Irrelevant.
Right, let me get to mine. All right, I still have Georgia like you, mainly because of the schedule. Although Brock Bowers' injury does scare me a lot, actually, because I could see them tripping up somewhere along the way. I mean, still got Missouri and Tennessee left, but I don't think either of those teams are a real threat. But you never know that when they're going to Neyland. So I still have Georgia. I still have Penn State. I do think they beat us this weekend, and I think they can beat Michigan at home. I've had them all year, so I'm not going to get off. I have Texas. I think they're the better team than Oklahoma too. That was a really good game though, and it wouldn't shock me if Oklahoma beats them again. But that's tough to do against 2 teams that are that evenly matched. And I think they'll win. They'll both win out, and Texas will win the rematch and get the spot in. And I wanted to say Oregon would do the same thing, but man, the more I think about that schedule at the end, there's like almost no way nobody's going to run off that 5-game schedule. At least nobody I've seen this year is that good. To be able to run that. So I'll go ahead and take Washington to get in there. I think they make it. I think they end up 12-0 before they play Oregon, and even if they lose to Oregon, then they can be like TCU and still get in. And if I think Florida State trips up somewhere and the ACC just isn't as good as the Pac-12, so I'll take a 1-loss team out of the Pac-12 over the 1-loss team out of the ACC. But yeah, that'll do it for this week. Thanks for watching, subscribing. We're over 100 views again on the last video. I mean, doesn't sound like a lot, but for us, it's fucking amazing. So keep it coming, and we will see you guys next time.
Hey, guys. Whoa, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
A rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but the